My name is Ava L, class of 2025, and I will be presenting Ella Baker.
Until the killing of black men, black women's sons, becomes as important to the rest of the country as the killing of a white brother's son. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until this happens.
Ella Baker, born on December 13, 1903 in Norfolk, Virginia, stands as one of the most influential yet under-recognized figures in the American Civil Rights Movement. Often overshadowed by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Baker's work was instrumental in shaping the direction of the movement, particularly through her emphasis on grassroots organizing, student activism, and the critical role of women. Through her tireless dedication and belief in collective leadership, Baker redefined what it meant to fight for civil rights and social justice. Ella Baker was raised in Littletown, North Carolina, where she was deeply influenced by her grandmother, a former slave, who instilled in her a sense of resilience and commitment to justice. It was from this foundation that Baker began to understand the systemic struggles that African Americans face. Baker's academic journey led her to Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, where she graduated as valedictorian in 1927. Shaw University was a critical space for her intellectual growth, and her time there sparked her lifelong commitment to social justice. As a member of the Young Negroes Cooperative League, she focused on supporting Black-owned businesses and fighting unfair labor practices. Baker's work caught the attention of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, and in 1941, she became a field secretary for the organization. In this role, she traveled extensively throughout the South, organizing local chapters, raising funds, and recruiting members. She helped build a massive grassroots network for the NAACP, which would later become a cornerstone for many of the civil rights activists in the 1950s and 1960s. In 1943, Baker was promoted to the position of National Director of Branches for the NAACP. But it was during her time in this role that Baker began to see the limitations of the NAACP's focus on middle-class Black Americans. She grew frustrated with the organization's bureaucratic structure and its tendencies to focus more on fundraising and increasing memberships than on addressing the immediate needs of the Black community. By the 1960s, Baker had become an influential figure within the civil rights movement, particularly in her role as executive secretary of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or the SCLC, which had been founded by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other civil rights leaders. During this time, she witnessed the rise of the student-led sit-in movement, a pivotal form of protest that challenged segregation at lunch counters across the South. Recognizing the potential of student activists involved, Baker called a conference in April 1960 at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Over 200 students attended, and though the NAACP and SCLC hoped that Baker would recruit them into their established organizations, she had different plans. Baker encouraged the students to form their own organization, a movement that would be led by youth and focused on direct action. This meeting led to the formation of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, a key player in the fight for civil rights in the 1960s. Baker believed deeply in the power of youth and self-organization. She was adamant that young people should not just be followers, but should lead and organize from the ground up. This philosophy was rooted in her broader belief that real social change came from building networks of support at the local level. As she would often say, the young people are the hope of any movement. Though often overlooked by mainstream historical events, Ella Baker was acutely aware of the central role that women played in the civil rights movement. Baker herself was a strong, determined woman who had worked alongside other women to build the infrastructure of the movement. Baker constantly reminded others that it was women, the backbone of the Southern communities, who were doing the everyday work of organizing, feeding, and supporting the movement. She made sure to give voice to the often invisible women activists working on the ground and used her position to encourage more women to take leadership roles. As she often said, the women did the work, the men got the credit. In the 1970s, after her direct involvement with the SNCC and the SCLC had waned, Baker continued to advocate for civil rights and social justice. She spoke out in support of Angela Davis's release from prison, and she traveled internationally, raising awareness about civil rights struggles in Puerto Rico. Baker passed away on December 13, 1986, on her 83rd birthday. Her death marked the loss of one of the most important but least celebrated figures in the civil rights movement. While others may have claimed the spotlight, Baker's legacy lives on through the countless activists she mentored, the organizations she helped build, and the communities she empowered.